if your next expansion doesn't come from pushing harder, but from reclaiming your energy, trusting your inner knowing, and letting your soul lead. In today's episode, I'm talking with a powerful guide who blends psychic insight, somatic healing, and soul-centered coaching to help women navigate big transitions with clarity, sovereignty, and purpose. This isn't your typical coaching conversation. This is an energetic alignment in action. Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Brenda Winkle. Brenda transforms the lives of high achieving leaders, entrepreneurs, and light workers by blending trauma informed breathwork, somatic coaching, and intuitive healing energy to create ease, clarity, and alignment in leadership and life. She's also the host of the Yes Field podcast and the Table of Woo. Don't you just love that? Welcome to the show, Brenda.
Thank you for having me, Jill. I'm really excited to be here and so excited to see where this conversation is going to go today.
Me too, because it's all about my favorite stuff, life. So I'm going to ask you this question that I should have let you know about before we hit record, but I'm just gonna go with it because I feel like you're the kind of person that's just you're gonna have the greatest answers. What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Oh, I love this question. And so, a lot of times we think about changing the world by doing something external. And it's true, of course, we can take action that absolutely has an impact on the external world. But if we're out of alignment with ourselves, then sometimes we can accidentally misfire that action. So, the most important thing that we can each do to make the most and the highest impact on the world is to come back home to our own energy, to track it, to notice when we're feeling really good, because that's sort of like our internal GPS. Do more of this. And if we really pay attention to that, we're going to be guided and led to things that will actually create the change that we want to see.
I love that so much. On your website, and I agree with you so much that it's really about discovering who we are and and embracing it and being okay with who we are because so much of our lives I would say for most people are filled with trying to be something that we're not, whether it's, we're pushed to go in a certain direction by parents. We were talking about your daughter earlier, and I admire your ability to just say, okay, we don't have to stay on this path just because we've been walking on it. We can do something different. We can have an adventure. We can have an experience, and life doesn't have to look any particular way in order for it to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really believe that to my core. And I guess the way that I internalize it is I think of life as our curriculum. And so if we're responding to the things that happen, that we feel, the experiences that we have, it makes sense that our path might change. Because as we learn more and we do more and we get different experiences, our perspective changes. And so what once served us may not continue to serve us.
We don't always have to be like, just because we said this is what we want, doesn't mean it has to always be what we want. Maybe
That's
we
right.
just didn't know that there was something different that's even more exciting than what we thought we wanted. So
That's
we
right.
can,
And there's two things that come up for me. One is I tell my clients all the time, you're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times in the personal development world, there's a subtle languaging around there's something wrong with you. And I reject that completely because I think that it's true that we're all on a growth journey or we wouldn't be curious and wanting to know more. But to come at it from the lens of I'm already whole and you're already whole, and we're just trying to find the best, most fun, most ease filled, most impactful way to live this life, that's the journey. And I'm a human design novice, but I will tell you, I'm a manifesting generator, which means that change is part of my makeup. I am fueled by novelty, by new ideas. And so if I didn't live by the idea that I can change my mind, it would feel so limiting to me. And so, invitation just to change your mind when something feels like it's ready to shift.
I'm a manifesting generator as well, and I'm it's like plot twist.
Yes,
I, I
exactly.
I loved that. You mentioned something on your website, and I do want to bring this up. It struck me to my core because I could relate to it so much, and it has honestly caused me so many problems in my life until I realized that, I can control this. I have the power. So you said I started people pleasing because I couldn't stand to feel their discomfort or disappointment. I felt
Mhm.
everything, their pain, their needs, and their desires. Part of me resented all the people pleasing, while another part of me took pride in my ability to read what people needed.
Mhm.
So profound. And
Mm,
I, I I've experienced this so much in my life. It's painful to me because I would I'm an empath, and you get near people and you're just like, you know what they need. They don't even have to open their mouth a lot of times, and I
right.
know what they need. And I used to just like tell them, just do this, you'll be happy. And they would get mad at me. I'd be hurt. It's like, well,
Mhm.
maybe they just aren't there yet, Jill. But
I liken this to walking through an airport. So if we imagine walking through an airport, and if you were to pick up a bag from every single person that you pass,
Mhm,
eventually you're going to be really weighed down with all the bags.
mhm,
And you're probably going to have to set down some of your own bags in order to carry everyone else's.
mhm,
And that's a lot of times the way that those of us that identify as empaths or intuitives, that's how we walk through the world until we learn a different way. We're carrying everybody else's stuff and we're leaving our own behind, meaning that I might have a solution for you and your problem, but I'm ignoring my own. And
yeah.
it's really natural to be like, oh, I can totally fix this for you. All you need to do is XYZ. And that's especially true if you have a high level of intuition and you're tapped in and you're like, I can see how this is going to go. Of course, you want to share that. And so that was my experience for sure through the first, 35 years of my life until I
Yeah.
started to set some boundaries. And one of the hardest boundaries to learn was for me to stop auto advice giving.
Yes.
And the other boundary that was really hard to learn, but probably the most impactful, was I can set boundaries around my intuition and the spiritual communication that comes in. So I'm not wide open 24/7.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think this period of time that we're in I know it's helped me a lot in that people are accepting and understanding that there is such a thing as an empath, and there is such a thing as somebody who just knows. They are intuitives. And as much as, people for a long time made fun of people who said, I get downloads, or I'm intuitive, or I just know what the end result of this is going to be. I can't prove it, but you can prove it. Just go ahead on the path that you're on, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And there's two things around this. The first is there actually is science behind empaths. There was
Mhm,
a researcher named Elaine Aron who started researching this in 1991. She's the one responsible for the term highly sensitive people. That
mhm,
all came from her research. And she identified a very small subset of highly sensitive people that she identified as empaths. And so there's actually the science to prove it. And for whatever reason, it's not gained a ton of traction. But I actually have a theory on the reason. When I think about who would benefit from us not tapping into our intuition from us not being able to discern our gifts, for our not being able to use our gifts, then I'm like, oh, of course they're going to make fun of us, make us feel like we're crazy, make us feel like, we're at risk for being relegated or burned at the stake or whatever.
Mhm.
There's a lot to be gained from the systems that are oppressive around us, from us not tapping into our intuition.
Yeah, and God forbid anybody find out that we have these abilities and that we can actually make a difference in the way the world is going, rather
Mhm.
than other people that want to profit off of the masses and control them.
That's
Because
right.
people who can tap into the the energy source that is all around us and are willing to just let it flow through them and share with others, those people are powerful in ways that the establishment can't allow to exist.
That's right. It's a lot harder to control somebody who can intuit your motives and the outcome of your actions, and
Mhm.
it's a lot harder to control somebody who actually knows, oh, this is aligned for me or this is not aligned for me.
and and now we're being empowered because of the number of us that are coming forward and saying, "Hey, this is real. I experienced this. I've got the burns from using it
Mhm.
incorrectly to show for my efforts, but it's becoming more acceptable in other realms, and we're learning how to control it better. You're talking about putting boundaries on your intuition. I have boundaries in my life. Most of the boundaries aren't for other people, they're for me.
That's right. That's right. And that's how boundaries work, right?
Yeah.
When we start working with boundaries, we often think that it's going to be about other people. But the truth is, setting the boundary is the beginning of the boundary. And it's when we can hold and maintain and really enforce the boundary that it begins to work. And that's all self work.
Yeah. You hear about boundaries and you're like, oh, woo, relief. Dang it. Not what I thought it was.
That's
But
right.
it's really helpful. And I've found that since I've established my own boundaries for myself, that my relationships with other people have been allowed to blossom in ways that they couldn't before, because I was trying to take on their life and my life and the other person's life and this person's life, and I wanted everybody to just get together and be nice and be happy and to love each other and for nothing bad to ever happen, and if something did happen, it was just like I took on that responsibility. It's like it is hard to live like that. It drives you crazy,
It's
really.
exhausting. And, there's a link between exhaustion and adrenal fatigue and a lot
Mhm.
of really serious diseases and this kind of energy around, let me save you, let me pretend like my needs don't matter, I'm going to be a martyr. And so it really creates havoc in our bodies and it
Mhm.
creates havoc in our relationships, because if we're taking on other people's stuff, we're robbing them of the dignity of their own experience.
Yeah.
And people, even if they want help, they don't want you to do it for them most of the time. Most of the time, they want to be able to figure it out.
Yeah. And maybe they'll ask. And you can offer. I offer a lot, but I quit being tied to the outcome unless somebody asks me for help and I give them advice, or I invest a lot of time and energy into it, and then they're like, "Well, no, I'm not going to do that."
Hmm.
Then I do get irritated. But
And one of the things that I teach is we have to get clear on what's okay and not okay.
Mhm.
What is a deal breaker for you? What is a preference? Do you have desires? We have to get clear on all of those things before we can begin to set the boundary. Because if we're not clear on what's true for us, it becomes so much harder to try and communicate it to somebody else. And then going along with that, we have to determine what our standards are. What is my baseline standard? What am I willing to live with? What am I willing to not live with? What will I not tolerate? And then from there, we have so much information and it becomes easier to articulate, oh, this specific set of behaviors, this really, really works for me. I feel great when these things happen. And when these things happen, I do not feel great. And so then we can use that kind of language when we're communicating with our loved ones.
And it helps us when we're dealing with other people. It helps us with our loved ones, and those people are important, and we need to have different boundaries with our loved ones versus the next tiers out. And the different relationships that you can have different sorts of boundaries. And and it helps us when we have these kinds of boundaries to recognize when things are going south. And instead of staying in situations that aren't helping us, to just cut ties and move on. And it keeps that when you sit in something that you're not aligned with anymore, or that is just not working for you with the boundaries that you have in your life. And we all run into these situations that you think are going to be one thing, and then suddenly you find yourself tangled up in a space you don't want to be in. Um, but if you know what your boundaries are, and you've established, I will tolerate this and I won't tolerate this. When you start getting close to the I won't tolerate this, you need to cut your ties. You don't have to be nasty about it, but you do need to make a different choice.
Well, and what you're speaking to is something about like tracking the energy of how you feel in specific situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes we may not even be aware that a boundary is necessary until we start to track and look at different situations. So I have an energy tracker on my website that you can download for free. It's just brendawinkle.com/audit. And if you're a digital person and you want something with like drop downs and color coded, just email me after you get that in your inbox and I'll send you a forced copy on a Google spreadsheet so you can do it yourself. But one of the things that I've learned, and I learned this for myself first, and now I teach it to others, but if I don't track different situations and scenarios and interactions, I may not have an awareness around this is draining me, this is fueling me. I feel great when I'm around this person. I don't feel great around this. And so if we don't have that awareness, it's so much harder to set a boundary because we'll often, or at least I'll speak for myself, I'll often get confused and think that it's X when really the thing that needs to be shifted is Y.
Yeah. And that's especially true when you get into like work situations where you're working with a community of people, and you're interacting with other people. Some of them might energize you, and others of them might be draining you, and it's like, okay, I don't know where the problem is, but my overall feeling is like I'm being sucked into the black hole. But
Yeah. And so one of the things that comes up for people is if we have unhealed child wounds
Mhm,
and we're feeling triggered in any situation, whether it's work or home,
mhm,
there's an indicator that there's something coming forward in the subconscious that's saying, hey, I need some healing and love here. Because if we're feeling triggered, whether it's we're angry or we're feeling competitive or we're feeling unappreciated or unseen, there's something there that
mhm.
is for us to look at. And so one of the things that we can start to do is get really curious around this is so interesting. I am really activated by this particular person at work. I wonder what this is about. I wonder, like, where in my body am I feeling sensation? Where do I remember this from a different time in my life? What situation is this familiar? Like, what does this remind me of?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an awareness thing more than anything else. And none of this is about, saying somebody is bad or wrong, or we we run into people all the time that they may make us feel a certain way. And it has really nothing to do with them. It just has to do with us.
That's right. In fact, I would even invite a language shift around that. No one can make you feel a way.
Yeah.
And so if we find ourselves feeling a specific way around a person, anything other than neutral or joyful, it's an
Mhm.
invitation for us to go inward and find out, is there a part of myself that I am pushing away, that I don't like, that I'm projecting onto this other person? Is there an unhealed child wound? Is there a protector part coming forward? And so when we can allow ourselves to be really curious and not make it mean anything about us or the other person,
Yeah.
like then there's true freedom.
And and this isn't to say that we should always allow people to just have free reign over us because
Oh,
we do
absolutely not.
we can in the curiosity explore whether is my feeling are my feelings being triggered as a warning to me because this person is going to bite me in the butt, yeah, for lack of a better way to put it, or or is this really something this person has no is neutral, it's all me, and sometimes that does
Mm.
happen.
Well, and so here we come back to intuition, right?
Mhm,
So when we get an intuitive hit, like a knowing, and intuition comes in for us lots of different ways. It could be dreams, it could be feelings, it could be visions, something that you see or hear. But when that intuition comes in, it's going to be neutral. It'll be emotionally neutral, as in, I know I can't trust that guy.
mhm,
And so that's neutral. When we have an emotional charge, we know that that emotional charge is likely something inside of us. It's not intuition. Now, can they be connected? Well, sure, they absolutely can. Like, let's say if I intuitively know I can't trust that guy, and I also am being reminded of a different situation when I was a kid where I felt really bad about something, then it can be both. But if you slow it down in your mind,
mhm.
you'll notice that there was a moment when the intuition dropped in where there was just pure information and neutrality before the emotion got activated.
Yeah, and it's being able to slow down.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm not very good at that, for
I'm
being
not,
honest with
I
you.
wasn't either. This has taken a lot of practice. My mom and my grandma always used to say that I was the fastest person that they'd ever met. Like I walk fast, I talk fast, I just do things fast. I complete tasks in a really quick way. And so slowing down was mostly out of blind curiosity. Like, what would happen if I slowed down? What would happen to my intuition? What would happen to my boundaries? What would happen to my life? And I found that if I insert a pause after I feel a sensation or I get a knowing, that pause is life changing because that pause gives me time to ask myself questions around, is this something I actually want to react to? Or is this something I'm just going to like use as, oh, this is information about what I don't want? That gets to be there too.
Yeah, I do like that. I think I've gotten better at the just allowing information to come in from other sources, like, and instead of feeling, well, I'll put it this way. My husband and I have learned how to fight in a way that is constructive. And when we when we realize that we often just want to be the victim in a situation rather than the hero of our own story, it really changed the dynamic in the
Mm-hmm.
conversations. So sometimes when things aren't going the way I want them to go, I can go to him and say, I want to be the victim in this situation for just a moment, and I'm going to share whatever I'm going to share.
Mm.
Other times, it's like, I want to feel empowered in this situation, and these are the changes I'd like to see. There's, neither one of them are like, you're a terrible person, you did these things. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I want to sit in victimhood for a moment. And sometimes we all just want to be the victim. It happens. He was complaining about being in the victim situation, and we were joking about it. It's like, I always have to grate the cheese. And I said, yes, honey, you are the victim of that. And you're also the victim of having to fill the ice trays all the time. I'll let you own that.
I love that you found this communication style that works for you, where
Yeah.
you can articulate, here's the space I'm in today.
Yeah. I think if people could own their own energy, it makes it allows the people that they're having conflict with own theirs as well. But it's also allowing them the space to have that same energy back at you. There's things that I do that annoy my husband no end. I try not to do them, but that it just happens. And he can come to me and he's so good. My husband is really amazing at this about being like, I, you know, I'm sorry I reacted the way I did. You didn't deserve that, and the situation didn't deserve that. And I can let him do it because I know that he's going to come back and he's going to say, I'm sorry. And
You
it's
know,
not personal.
there's something, I had a podcast guest on my podcast, Your Yes Filled
Mhm,
Life, and her name was Deb Rubin. And
mhm,
she is a therapist. And she was talking about the benefit of the rupture repair cycle. And
mhm,
she said that when a relationship has a rupture, like let's say a fight, we could call that a
mhm.
rupture, and you
Yeah,
come back and you repair it, that the relationship actually grows stronger than it was before the rupture because you're able to see each other, to hear each other, and to come back together in a way that's like, oh, I'm building trust with you because I know now I can have this disagreement with you and you'll still be there.
yeah, yeah. It's like reminds me of the gold and the Japanese. They repair things. I
Is
can't
it called
remember the
Meraki?
Kanjuki or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's three syllables a lot of vowels and hard
Yeah,
consonants. Yes.
that's the one where the broken thing is put to back together with gold. So
Mm-hmm.
the broken thing that's been repaired is much more valuable than the original thing
Mm-hmm.
before the
Mm-hmm.
repair. I kind of feel like that it is an accurate description of what you were talking about in terms of allowing people that you have relationships with the space to express what they're feeling, because ultimately it's what we're feeling that energizes these heated discussions, or wanting people to do things in a certain way, or wanting them to agree with you, or whatever the thing is. If you can allow them the space to at least express what they're trying to express without having to have an opinion about it or feel like you have to take it on and own it for yourself, can just let them have it. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can it's either the entry point for a further discussion, or it can be um it can just allow them the release valve, and it allows you to not have to feel like you have to absorb it.
Right. And my perspective is just it's similar but slightly different in the sense that I don't allow anyone to use me as their release valve. That's one of my standards is if you need a release, I invite you to go to yoga, go to your weight workout class, run whatever it is, get some of that energy out and then come back and talk. I will not be your release valve. And so in my relationships, that's what feels good to me. And
Yeah.
so I love that you have found what feels good and works for you because every single one of us is unique and we're going to have our unique way that we want to come into these relationships and it just is so beautiful that it's sounds so connective.
It is connective and it works for me, but it doesn't I am just like I'm just me. I'm not my husband, I'm not my kids, and everybody has their own space that life is just so much more pleasant when you can allow people to be them and not have to
Yes.
be them for them.
Totally. Totally. So I just recorded a podcast episode this week about the curriculum of our lives. And thinking about curriculum as like what we're here to learn and viewing any circumstances or situations that feel challenging as the curriculum. And I remember like back in high school, there were some classes I absolutely loved. I couldn't wait for them to come, in the day. I looked forward to them so much. And then there were other classes that I could not stand, like geometry, for example, was one of those classes. And so sometimes I think about life and the circumstances and the situations that present themselves as my curriculum. And so when something's happening that I'm not loving, it's a reminder that I get to learn something from this situation so that I don't have to be signed up for the same class.
Yeah, to take it again next semester.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe you should pay attention so that you don't have to.
Right.
That's a good reminder, and I like that a lot. So, why do you think trusting your intuition is an important part of trusting ourselves?
I think that they go hand in glove. And if we are disconnected from our intuition, it becomes so much harder for us to trust ourselves. And what that looks like would be making decisions by committee, asking everybody you know what you should do before you actually do it. It looks like deep insecurity around making any changes or decisions. It can also look like feeling like you're not enough and outsourcing power. In other words, letting other people decide things for you. And it manifests in simple but really profound ways. Like when somebody says, well, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? And you say, I don't know. I don't care. We're giving away a lot of power. If, and that's different. I just want to say before I dive into the next thing, that's different than saying, I know that you really love Mexican food. And so if you want to go to Mexican food tonight, I'm okay with that. That's different than saying, I don't know. I don't care. And so, how it fits in with intuition and trusting ourselves is when we're connected to our intuition, it feels a little bit like we have an anchor. In other words, we're not going to go drifting off into something else. So I had a client this morning that talked about feeling like she was an actress in somebody else's movie. And she wanted to feel like she was the main character in her own life instead of feeling like she was a supporting character. And what it comes down to is trusting and knowing that intuition so that you can say to somebody, that's a beautiful idea. That is so exciting. It's wonderful. I know that that's not going to be for me. I want to go do this thing.
Mhm.
And so they're so innately connected. And the other way that intuition impacts us is we can start to discern what's right for us, what's wrong for us, what's true. And then we also know who to trust and what situations to trust. And it creates momentum in our muscle memory of, oh, I can trust my own knowing. I can trust that I actually do know what makes me feel good and what's right for me or right for my family.
I think it also helps us to be able to let other people have their own intuition too.
Well, it's essential because you can't have intuition for someone else. You can have
Mhm.
your intuition about someone else, but you can't override their intuition with yours, which is where we get into the concept of projection, which happens for a lot of people at the beginning of their spiritual development when they are not able to discern a message coming in from their own projection around something that they might be working on. And so, one of the things that becomes essential is creating a sense of sovereignty in your own system by protecting your own energy. Because when you're in a sovereign place, then I know this is my intuition and I can feel your intuition. I can see what my intuition is telling me and I can differentiate it from yours. And I can differentiate what's my personal work to do from what your personal work to do is. And also, it's so common that people who are working through similar issues will be drawn to similar coaches, healers, therapists, psychics. it's so often that we're like magnet to steel shavings with people working on our same stuff.
I find, having interviewed a lot of people over the years, that I get groups of people together. They group themselves. Like today has been kind of a similar thread in my other conversations. And other days it'll be something totally different, but the thread will be similar
Mhm.
through the conversations. It's it's just one of those interesting things that I've noticed in dealing with people. And
Yeah, and it's energy, right? So
Mhm.
we're in a specific energetic stream, and so it makes sense that it would be similar kinds of conversations and threads.
Yeah. So how do you coach people? All right, does it groups, one-on-one
I
programs?
I work in both. I have a group program called Your Yes Filled Life,
Mhm.
and that is changing form just a little bit because we're going to be offering more bite-sized types of things in 6 and 8 week containers. It has been a year-long program, and so that's in flux right now, but that's my group offer. And then I do work with people one-on-one as well.
Awesome. And how do people get in touch with you if if they're
So
interested in something?
my website is brendawinkle.com, and
Mhm.
that's Winkle. And that probably is the biggest hub. And if people are on social and they have fun on social, um, I'm there too.
Okay. So, do you use, I know that you offered this Oracle piece. Do you use Oracle cards when you're working with people? Is that how does the word Oracle fit into what you do?
I
Let's
love
get that
Oracle
way.
cards. So behind me,
Uh-huh.
I have like
Oh, yeah.
a lot of Oracle cards. Oracle cards were my first step into the work that I do now. And Oracle cards are a great way to unlock your own intuition because you can work with Oracle cards and then they can confirm things that you already know. So for a lot of people, that is one of the very first places that they begin to realize, oh, I have these intuitive gifts. And so I've been working with Oracle cards for about 12 years. And actually, I'm a certified Oracle card reader. And I love to follow people on social media that are also readers, like Oracle card readers, tarot readers. And one of the things that I noticed was they're missing two important pieces of readings. Like all of these people are. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put together a little free course on Oracle cards because I think all of us should be the very best readers that we can. So I created that free course. So to answer your question, when I first started doing the work that I do now, I relied heavily on the cards because I didn't quite have the confidence to say, oh, this is what's coming through. Now, if somebody requests that I use cards, or if I feel like they're having a hard time believing the message that I'm saying, I'll
Mhm.
use cards as confirmation. And so that just is kind of a fun other way. And then I also see people, especially coaches in the spiritual space, that will do like, let me draw one card. Okay, great. But if we're going to draw one card, let's make sure that we've cleaned the deck, that we're not picking up on other people's energy, and that we're getting a card that is actually true for the energy that you're feeling, sensing, and participating in that day, which goes back to why I created that course, because I just want it to be accessible and helpful for everyone.
So is there a difference between tarot and Oracle cards?
There is. There is a difference. And so I talk about this in the course and it's part of the ebook that comes with it, but
Mhm.
tarot cards are a very specific set of meanings that have been assigned to each card. So every tarot deck is going to have exactly the same number of cards in the same order. And while, one, like let's say if you do an angel tarot, they might call the suit of swords suit of air, but it all is dealing with thoughts. So there can be
Mhm.
those kinds of differences. Whereas an oracle deck is created by an author. And oracle card decks can vary tremendously in the numbers of cards. There could be as few as 8 up to 90 in an oracle card deck, and they can be themed in any way that somebody wants. So the tarot card is a very specific type of reading, and the
Mhm.
oracle card is a more broad type of reading. And so you get to kind of just pick which one feels most resonant to you, and then go from there. I like both, but not everybody does.
I see people, I do follow some people that do tarot card readings, and they tend to incorporate even horoscopes into it and on it for another layer of more accuracy. And then they bring the oracle cards in as well. So you're getting kind of the combination of the three, and they're generalized readings. So it's not like a personal energy, but it's an energy around a group of people that have certain tendencies or characteristic energies assigned to them at birth,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, like the collective. And so
Yeah.
that specific person's collective. So typically, if an oracle card reading or a tarot card reading pops into your awareness
Mm-hmm.
on, let's say you're scrolling social media, there's something energetically that's connected you to that reader and to that reading. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if it feels aligned for you, you could see if the reading feels good. The thing that I will always say is take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Because, there's so many variables. We want to make sure that the oracle or tarot card reader is getting their information from the light, at least according to me. I don't deal
Mm-hmm.
with the dark. I deal with like dark goddess energy, but not dark energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So we want to make sure about that. And then we also remember me saying that in our beginning of our spiritual development, of our psychic development, it's easy to project. We want to make sure that somebody is in their sovereignty so that they're not projecting energy that is their personal life path work onto the collective. And so if it doesn't resonate, it might be that somebody accidentally slipped because everybody's human. And so that can happen.
Yeah, and again, using your intuition to like feel into the presenter and the reader and just how it feels for you. And sometimes, you click on something and it's like, nah, I'm not feeling it.
That's right. Yeah, and that's
Hit
just the
stop.
discernment that feels good. So that free course is available at
Mhm.
brendawinkle.com/oracle.
And
And
then you have the energy audit.
I do, yeah, the energy audit. That I feel like that is one of the most impactful things that I've ever created. And I created it for myself first. I was
Mhm.
traveling full time and I had always wanted to travel full time. And I had done it for a variety of reasons. I wanted to do it, but I needed the flexibility because my dad was very sick. And so I was coming, after my dad's death, I was coming back out west and traveling in Airbnbs and just noticing like something's off, something's off. What is happening? I ended up with a really big panic attack moving from one long-term Airbnb to the next. And it caused me to go, what is this about? What is happening? And so I started just on a piece of notebook paper tracking my energy. And it was how I was able to realize, oh, making decisions around where to live next is costing me bandwidth I don't have. It was fun before my dad died to like think about where I'm going to live, but right now because of grief, I don't have that capacity.
Mhm.
And so I started to track it and then I started talking about it to my clients. And they were like, oh, will you make us one? And so that was how the energy audit came. And we even talked about it today in my group coaching call. Like, it's not like you have to audit your energy every day, all day for the rest of your life. But
Mhm.
going in once in a while and saying, okay, for this week, I'm going to track things so that I can have an idea of what's fueling me, what's depleting me, and then you can make informed decisions around what you'll continue into the next week can just feel really good. Gives you that power back.
I love that. I can see a great use for it when we all tend to like get in situations where we just notice that, hey, my anxiety level is off the charts, and it wasn't yesterday. So what's
Hmm.
going on here? And rather than just like sitting in that, having a tool that can help us, figure out why is this affecting me like this right now? And what can I do to move into a different state of energy so that so I can feel better. So
Yeah,
we don't want to
totally.
suffer.
And it blends the intuition with the structured mind. because our structured mind is what takes over when we're under stress. So if
Mhm.
we can find a way to work with the structured mind, it's really helpful. I'm curious, Jill, how does intuition come in for you?
I just have like the knowing. It's just like it's like I always knew.
Hmm.
I, I don't ask for it. It just comes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Sometimes it's like, close your mouth, Jill.
Oh, because you got one you didn't ask for.
Well, yeah, sometimes you get stuff you don't ask for, and sometimes you just don't know what I don't know what to do with it. And
You
I
know,
just have to sit with it.
one of my mentors taught me something that seemed too simple to work, but it
Hmm.
really, really works. I wrote a letter to my spirit team.
Hmm.
And in my letter, I thanked them for helping me to develop my gifts and thanked them for helping me in that
Hmm.
development. And then I also said, I really want to live this life because I am human. And so my request would be that you not allow the drive-by readings to happen, so please only bring me readings when I'm in session. And please help someone who needs a session find me so that they can book a session. And please help
Hmm.
them have the resources to be able to pay for a session so that I'm not, in the grocery store doing a drive-by reading with somebody because something came through. And so
Yeah,
invitation just to write a letter to your spirit team and say how you want it to come in and when for you.
I like that a lot. And I bought new stationery because my sister bought me a pen. It's a fountain pen. It's
Oh, I love that.
so yeah, I've decided I was going to start writing with a fountain pen and journaling and but I think I will use the stationery. I bought the stationery so I could write to her
Oh, I love that.
because I thought it was so nice of her.
No,
That is really helpful to write to my spirit team and I will take you up on that. I will do that. I think that would be better than just like getting these random
yeah,
downloads.
I know what you mean. I was a teacher for 26 years, and the random downloads could be really jarring when you see something you don't want to see that you can't actually do anything about because you're not supposed to know it in the first place.
Hmm.
It can be really jarring.
Yeah. And you combine that with being an empath, and then you're like you're feeling the things that they're feeling, and then you know you could fix it. And then
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
like,
So
yeah.
one thing for that, um, so I work with a lot of empaths, and I am an empath as well.
Hmm.
So, if we can create a little bit of sovereignty in our energetic field, it can be a game changer. So, I teach
Hmm.
something just called the zip up method, where you just are going to make a zipping motion from the
Hmm.
base of your spine up over the top of your head. And you can set the intention to have it be various strengths. So, like you
Hmm.
can zip up and then set the intention that it will allow you to remain sovereign from your husband, but not separate from your husband. Whereas
Hmm.
if you're walking in a busy airport, I'm flying tomorrow. That's why I'm thinking about the airport. When you're
Yeah.
walking in a busy airport, you probably want more energetic protection. So you would zip up with that intention so that you don't feel overwhelmed by all the people on the airport, which used to be my story.
Yeah. And it's really hard. And I don't I used to think I was weird because people didn't talk about this.
I know. I felt the same way. I grew up in Chadron, Nebraska, which is a little small town in the northwestern corner.
Hmm.
And we used to have to drive to Rapid City, South Dakota to go shopping. Like that was where the mall was. And so
Hmm.
once a month we'd go to the mall and I'd be fine for the first 30 minutes ish. And then I would have a crushing headache and feel nauseous. And so then I would go back outside and I would take a break and then I could come back in when I felt better. And I thought for a very long time that I was allergic or something to the clothing in the mall. Turns
Hmm.
out it's the energy. As soon as I learned to zip up my energy, I was able to go back into a mall.
It's these little things that we aren't taught. We
Right?
need to know. That's like a powerful tool. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
I honor
welcome.
the gift that you've given me because I believe it's really going to impact my life a lot.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Well, Brenda, this has been an amazing conversation. I have really enjoyed it.
I have too. Thank you so much for having me and for just being open and talking about the things that are sometimes taboo.
Yeah, yeah. The same goes for you because it's hard to have conversations like this with people that don't get it. They just look at you weird. And you're on Substack. So I want to make sure that people know that they can find you in two places. One is brendawinkle.com and
Hmm.
also your yesfilledlife.substack.com. And if you I will put these in the show notes below, but you can also just search for Brenda over on Substack and her publication will come up. I know because that's what I did.
Oh, that's amazing. I thank you for mentioning that. I'm such a beginner. I didn't even know my URL over on Substack. So thank you for sharing it.
That's your URL, and I'm excited to see where that blossoms to, because I think big things are coming for you over there.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. And to learn more about Brenda and to schedule your energy audit, please visit brendawinkle.com, and I'll be sure to put that link in the notes. And thank you for tuning in with us. If you have a podcast or are interested in starting one, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission and offer a variety of ways to do this on Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.